Welcome to the branches episode of the version control with Git video series. In this episode, we'll learn what branches are, which we've hinted at a little bit in the previous episodes, and we'll learn how we can work in parallel using branches. To see where we're at with our repository, we can type pwd and we're in the planets folder. And in the planets folder, we have several data files which have been ignored by the previous episode's activities. And then we also have a mars.txt folder and a results folder which is also ignored. And if we look at our history, let's look at cat mars.txt. It still has 3 lines in it. And if we do git log -- 1 line, we can see that we have 4 commits now, the history of building up the mars.txt file, and then adding our ignore file. So first, we've been talking about that we're on the default branch main, but we can also see that by typing git branch by itself. It lists all of the branches that currently exist, and it shows which one we're on with the star and in green. And so we can see the different branches that exist there. Whenever we want to make a branch, we can also use the git branch command. In this particular episode, we're going to talk about working in parallel. So we're going to pretend like Dracula's trying to run an analysis, and he's uncertain about whether it'll be faster in Bash or Python. What he's going to do is he's going to keep his main branch without either analysis in it, and he's going to create a copy of the main branch that then he can make his Python script in and test it and work on it. And then he'll go back to the main branch where the analysis doesn't exist yet, and he'll make a copy of it again, and he'll make a version of it that's in the Unix shell and uses Bash and test that and see which one's faster. And so then he'll decide which analysis he wants to keep and bring that into the main branch to continue moving forward with it. So we're going to create 2 parallel branches where we're doing edits, and then we'll come back together. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make a new Python branch that we can work in. And in that branch, we wanted to have all of the history of the main, so everything main has, and then we can continue on from there. And whenever you make a branch, it keeps the history from the branch you were in when you created it. And so we need to be in main to start with, so we are, and that's good. And if we type git branch pydev for Python development branch, we created a branch from the main branch that's called pydev. If we type git branch by itself here, we can see that now we have a second branch called pydev. So far it has all the same history as main, but we're still in the main branch. So any changes and commits we make from here will actually get put into the main branch. And we want them to be put into the Python development branch, the pydev branch. Here we can see that there are 2 uses for checkout. Not only does it let us pull back old versions, it lets us switch from one branch to another. So we can type git checkout pydev. It tells us it switched to pydev, but we can also check by typing git branch. And now you can see we have the star next to pydev and it's green. You'll also note that we saw which branch we were on whenever we typed git status. So typing git status can also tell you which branch you're on. So we're on the pydev branch now. So next we need to make our analyses. And so we're going to type touch analysis.py. And here we're going to pretend like we created this script. We're really creating an empty file called analysis.py, but we could imagine we spent many hours writing and testing this analysis.py script. And then, like we've been doing with all the history of Git, every time we want to save a version of something to our history, we need to add and commit it. So we'll type git add analysis.py and git commit -m. Wrote and tested Python analysis script. And again, we made sure that we were in the pydev branch before we committed this because we want it to go into the pydev branch, not the main branch. Okay, let's look at our log now. So if we type git log -- 1 line, we can see that our main branch is still one commit behind, but the PyDev branch has this new commit in it. If we type ls, we should see we also have analysis.py here. Okay, so we did our analysis in Python. We also want to try doing our analysis in Shell, but we don't want it to be in the same history as the Python branch. So we don't want it to have both PyDev or .py and .sh scripts in the same folder. So we're going to make a new branch from the main branch that we then do our shell development in, our bash development in, and then we'll decide which of these two we want to keep, the PyDev one or the bash dev one. Okay, so last time we made our branch by typing branch and then the new branch name. This time we're going to make our branch and switch to it all at once, but before we ever make our branch, we always need to check which branch we're in. And so if we type git branch right now, we can see we're still in PyDev. And again, we don't want the history of PyDev in our bash development branch. And so we need to switch back to main. And so we can get back to main by typing git checkout main. And let's double check that we're in it, git branch. Now we're back in our main branch. And so we can now make our new bash dev branch. And when we do that, we're going to, instead of doing two steps like we did with the Python dev, where we said git branch Python dev and git checkout Python dev, we're going to do it all at once. We're going to say git checkout -b, which stands for branch, bash dev. So we're going to make and check out our bash dev branch in one step here. You can see it says we switched, but if we type git branch, we can see that now we have a main branch, a Python dev branch, and a bash dev branch. While we're here, let's type ls. We can see that we don't have the analysis.py, so that is not in our current branch. And if we type git log --one line, we can see that we don't see the commit for the bash or the Python dev branch. It's not there. So in our history right now, we only have up to the last commit from the main branch. So again, here we're going to create that analysis script. So we'll say touch analysis.sh for a bash script. And we tested it and wrote it. And so we're going to add and commit this version of our script to our history. So we'll type git add analysis .sh git commit -m wrote and tested bash analysis script. Okay, from here we have to decide which one we wanted to keep. So we wrote and tested both of these, and it turns out that the Python one is very slightly faster. And so we want to keep the Python version and get rid of this development we did of the bash dev branch. When we decide to keep a particular branch, we need to merge it into the main branch, right? And so we want to go forward with main. Main is our usual default branch. It's the one we do that everyone uses when they get our repository. And so we want to bring our Python development commits and files into that main branch. And so we're going to do what's called a merge. Before we do our merge, let's take a look at the current state of all of our branches. And so here's where looking into the different options for git log can be very useful for you. So let's type git log --one line --all. So it's going to be all branches --decorate. So this makes a nicer looking version, and --graph. So this is going to show us a version of our log that kind of shows us a little bit better the relationship between our three branches. And so main branch has these first 4 commits, and then from the main branch we have 2 branches that have up until then the same history, but then bash dev has this commit that's the Python script, and the Python dev has the one that is the Python script, and the bash dev branch has the one that is the bash script. And so here we can see our three branches and how they relate to one another. And again, right now we want to bring all the changes from Python dev into main, and we're going to want to get rid of the bash dev branch. And to bring changes into main, we have to be in main to do so. And right now we're still in bash dev. And so to get back there, we need to type git checkout main. So now I'm back in the main branch. I can hit my up arrow twice to get back that nice long log command. And now I should see that my head is pointing towards main because I'm currently in my main branch. The next thing I want to do is merge in the changes from PyDev into my main branch. So I'll type Git Merge PyDev. And I don't have to specify main because I'm in the main branch. Merge works into the branch that you're currently in. And you can see it did a fast forward. It brought all the new file and that new commit into my main branch. Let's hit the up arrow again to get back that nice long log command. Now I can see the new relationship of my three branches. Now main and PyDev have all of these commits, and then bash dev has a different commit that is not in main or PyDev. The next step I would typically do is to clean up my branches. And so the first thing I want to do is delete my Python development branch. I could keep it, but it's going to fall behind main eventually if I'm working in other branches or working in main. And so I want to get rid of it so I'm not confused about what it is later. So I'll type git branch -d and then PyDev. And you can see it deleted my PyDev branch. I could also keep around my bash dev in case I wanted that analysis script, but I'm nervous I won't remember what it is later and I don't need it anymore, so I'm going to delete it. So I'll say git branch -d bash dev. You can see here it gave me an error. It said bash dev is not fully merged. Are you sure you want to delete it? And so this is it being very careful for me, is saying that there's no other record of this commit and that file in your other branches, and when you delete it, it's going to be gone. Are you sure you want to get rid of the bash dev branch? And I do, and it actually gives me a little hint that if I use a capital D, I can tell it I really want to delete the bash dev file. So I'll type git branch -D bash dev. Dev. And now if I hit my up arrow a few times to get back my log, I can see now I only have my main branch and my history of my different commits. And if I type git branch by itself, I can see I only have the main branch. And when I type ls, I should still see I have my analysis.py, but not my analysis.sh and all my other files. This is the beginning of working with branches. So branches can be useful for you when you're experimenting on different things. You can make an experimental branch and keep your original branch safe from those changes while you're testing things out. Maybe people are using your main branch and you don't want their service to be disrupted if you mess something up while you're experimenting. And so you might have your main branch for that. Branches can also be very useful for collaborating and suggesting changes to other people, and we'll learn more about that when we get into some of the things that you can do with GitHub and the section that's about pull requests. This is the end of the branches episode of the version control with Git lesson. Go on to the next episode to learn how to deal with any conflicts that might arise when you're working on the same file in different branches.